Booktube, and here I am with my slightly belated book buddy-athon wrap up. My book buddy was Tracy from Flamingo Reads, the very lovely Tracy, and it's taken us a little bit longer than a week to do our book buddy reads because we've both been really busy and things have been going on, but we just decided just to go at our own pace. Book buddy-athon was hosted by Eleanor from Eleanor Reads Books and Sam from Cold Tea and Crumbs, and there were 5 challenges this time. First challenge is to read a book with your book buddy. So Tracy and I decided on A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I believe this is the first in a trilogy. I'd had it on my shelves for a while, I think Tracy had as well, so it was great to actually find a book that we both had and we both fancied reading. And this book absolutely blew me away. I loved it so much, and so did Tracy. We really enjoyed it. It's sort of it's a fantasy novel where London exists in sort of parallel universes. So you have a red London where our hero Kel comes from, grey London, which probably sounds a little bit like Victorian London that we would know, white London, which is ruled by quite a sadistic evil king and queen, and black London that we know nothing about really, other than the magic that sort of underpins society in all of these parallel Londons is quite strong there, and it is in control of black London. And I absolutely loved it. Kel is a specific type of person who has the ability to travel between these places, and his role is often just to carry messages from the rulers of each particular part of the Londons. But then obviously there's adventures, and there's trouble brewing, and I don't want to say too much, but I was so invested in the characters. He meets up with Lila, who's from grey London, who's streetwise. She's a fingersmith. She steals to get by. She lives on the wits, but she's got a wanderlust for adventure, and she dreams of owning a ship. And so the stories sort of come together, and they end up on this adventure together. And I raced through it. I couldn't put it down. It was so exciting. I will definitely be reading books 2 and 3 of the series very soon. It was fabulous. I know that probably I'm one of the last few people to have read this, but if you haven't read it, I thoroughly recommend it. It was great. The next challenge was to read a book with pictures in it, so I chose Porcelain, a Gothic Fairy Tale by Benjamin Reed and Chris Wildgoose, and this is the cover of it. And again, I absolutely love this. This was recommended to me by Caitlin from Kitty G. She put it in my hand when we had a booktube and meet up. And I trust her judgment, and she was so right. I loved this tale. Basically, it starts with some street urchins, and they're starving and they're living on the wits. And there's a great big mansion with huge walls, and it's a scary place, and people sort of say you never come back once you've been in there. And it's the home to the porcelain maker, which is this dude here. And the young girl in the story who's here gets stirred by the other children to go over the wall. And she's a spunky character. She's not frightened of getting in there and having a go. So she goes over the wall, and it isn't quite what she'd been led to believe. The guy who owns the house, the porcelain maker, turns out to be quite protective, and he takes her under his wing, and he sort of takes her on as his ward. And I don't want to say too much about it because it'll spoil it, but he's very protective of her. She's very cosseted. But he starts to teach her the ways of being the porcelain maker, but I don't want to say any more than that. But what I can say is it's well worth a read. I loved it. I'll just show you some of the pictures inside and how it looks. And I do believe there's a second volume around, but I've not been able to track it down. It doesn't seem to be widely available yet, but I will definitely be reading it when I find it. This was fabulous. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to see what happens next. Next challenge was to read a book that the title starts with your book buddy's name, and so my book buddy was Tracy, and so I didn't really want to do a cop-out and do a book with the as a title, although this does start with the, but it's mainly got T's in it. So I have chosen The Trouble with Goats and Sheep, and I don't know if you can see it. This is by Joanna Cannon. The sort of title is sort of pressed out on the like naked hardback, and it's got a a goat on the front and a sheep on the back. Now I've not actually finished this yet, I'm about halfway through. I'll probably be finishing it today because I am absolutely loving it. It's one of those books that within, I'd say, the first 20 pages sucked me in and completely engaged me. The writing is beautiful. The use of metaphors makes you feel like you are there, and it is amazing. I'm old enough to remember the really hot summer of 1976, and I grew up in a cul-de-sac, and this story revolves around Tilly and Gracie, who are, I think they're about 10, and one of the neighbours in the streets goes missing, and they decide to take it upon themselves to find her and find out what's going on. And it's all the sort of stories of what's going on behind closed doors, and it flashes a little bit backwards and forwards in time, but you do feel the heat of that summer. You feel that close-knit community, because certainly I think things are different now. When I lived in the cul-de-sac, I knew all the neighbours, they knew me, we were in and out of each other's houses all the time, so it's very much got that feel, and it has taken me right back to my childhood. But again, it is beautifully written, it is intriguing, the characterisation is fantastic. It's well on its way to being a 5-star read for me, and so I can't recommend it highly enough. So I will let you know in my, probably my weekly wrap up, how it went when I get to the end. Challenge number 4 was to read a book just because. And I chose The Monster's Wife by Kate Horsley, and if you can just look at the cover of that, it's a bit of a glare on it because it's got like a, this is like an ex-library copy. And this book, it's only got quite a few recommendations on Goodreads. There's not many reviews of it. It seems to be definitely underhyped, and to be honest, I don't know why, because it was absolutely brilliant. This takes the story of, if you've ever read Frankenstein, there's a part where Dr. Frankenstein goes to the Scottish Islands, and this takes place on Orkney, where the monster has asked him to make him a companion. And this is the bit that follows that story. So it's a tiny little Orkney island, and Dr. Frankenstein is working on his experiments, and there's an island girl called May who is doing his domestic sort of duties, his chores, his cooking and his cleaning, and her friend Una. And the island is a very tight-knit community. It's very very much led by the pastor in the church, and it's very patriarchal society. It's very male dominated. And Una and May sort of start to become entangled in what's going on at the big house with Dr. Frankenstein. Una starts to go up there and do some work with him. As we read the book, we know that Una's got some kind of, it appears to be like a heart condition, and she knows that she's probably going to die young because her mother had the same thing. And I don't want to give too much away, but it was a rapid page turner. I loved the characters. I loved the way Kate Horsley set it in the Orkney Islands, and you felt that you were there. It is just so evocative. It was thrilling. It was a bit gory. It had a few twists and turns that I didn't see coming, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good, and I really don't know why this is not more highly known, because it certainly should be. It is well worth a read if you can get yourself a copy of it. It was fab. And the final challenge was to read 5 books, and I didn't manage to read 5. I've read 3.5, and I was very pleased with that. And so, because for me, in a week or even a fortnight, sometimes if I'm really busy and working things, 5 books can be a little bit much for me. But I've really enjoyed the books I did read. I feel like I've picked some really good ones, and it was just a great experience as well to share them with my book buddy. So let me know if you've read any of these, and if you want to have a chat about some of the books I've read, in particular, the Kate Horsley one, if you want to sort of find it and let me know what you think of it when you read it. So I will see you all soon. Keep reading. Bye!